The first ever Intra-ACP or African, Caribbean and Pacific Global Climate Change Alliance program is taking place at the San Ignacio Resort Hotel. The program is being hosted by the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center in an effort to stimulate interest in the program by formulating thematic workshops for the exchange of information and expertise within the program. Joseph Migan is the program manager.
The program includes 16 CARIFORUM countries, and our overall objective is to help the national governments to better adjust to the adverse impacts of climate change that has been projected to happen within the next century. We do that by providing them with resources to monitor the climate, to build capacity to make decisions that will address climate change, and also provide them with resources to actually respond to the adverse effects of climate change. So it's a threefold step. We advise them, we provide them with monitoring information and data, and we provide them with resources to actually do implementation on the ground in terms of adaptation projects.
According to Migan, countries from the three regions are adversely affected by climate change. Because of the impact of global warming, those affected countries are vulnerable to increase of temperature, increase of sea level, and erratic precipitation patterns. As a small country, Belize's emission of greenhouse gases is practically insignificant compared to larger and more populated countries. The chair of the ACP Secretariat and an expert of rural development, food security and environment, Dr. Olusola Ojo, says that climate change is serious business and there are many methods to deal with it.
There are several interventions to address the impact of climate change, especially on the small island countries and those that are most vulnerable in the world. But within the concept of the ACP and the European Union, there's an agreement that we refer to as the Cotonou Partnership Agreement, within the framework of which we have the European Development Fund. And within this fund, we finance programs and projects to address development issues. And since we know that climate change is impacting on development aspect of our countries, the ACP countries, we deem it necessary to allocate some money to address this issue under the Global Climate Change Alliance, supported by the European Union.
The effects of climate change ultimately have a ripple effect on a country's economy, as explained by Dr. Wendell Parham, the Chief Executive Officer of the Ministry of Forestry, Fisheries and Sustainable Development.
Right now, of course, we are having saltwater intrusions further up into the river and into the soil, so that will impact agriculture. That's one of the things that's happening with the rise in sea level. So we have saltwater going further in than normal, so affecting our ability to grow crops in those soils. It also would affect your infrastructure. If you are building concrete with iron, you know what will happen once salt is in the system. And you have difficulties with maintaining buildings. The increase in temperature, of course, you feel it yourself, and that demands a lot more energy. Some people have to use more AC, the cost of air conditioning increasing. And also, as I said, there are increase in rainfall, which is leading to a lot of flooding in various places, as you witnessed recently in Stan Creek, there in Hope Creek and these areas, some serious flooding. And also, you will find that the dry season is getting a bit shorter. It's becoming very erratic. There's no demarcated dry season. Now this impacts agriculture, because at one time you could have said for sure, I could cut plantation or start develop agriculture in January and plant by May. Now rain can come almost any time. And for those subsistence farmers in particular, if they don't burn in time, then they can't grow anything. So the erratic rainfall pattern, the whole temperature regimes that is changing on us, is really affecting our ability to manage the economy.
The changing effects of the weather patterns and climate on a whole is irreversible, but even though the effects are not sudden, preparation is the key, says the Executive Director of the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center, Dr. Kendrick Leslie.
First of all, we have to accept we cannot reverse the changes that are ongoing and still to come. We have to remember that what we are seeing today, it was mentioned that the global average temperature has risen 0.8 degrees so far. But in our region, it is over 1 degree already. So it is not uniform, that's the average, but we are above that. Secondly, what is taking place today in terms of emissions, the impact will come 100 years from now. So we are just seeing the tip of the iceberg.
What we do is that we provide, for example, to all the countries in the project, meteorological and hydrological equipment for them to collect more climate data. This data is used to help drive the climate modeling program, which then makes projections as to what the future climate scenarios will look like. That will then be used to help them to develop adaptation strategies through the conduct of vulnerability assessment, impact assessment, and other assessments that will lead to the strategies and action plan to deal with climate change.
Reporting for Love News, I'm Ippolito Novello.